You've been told you're special, unique, one of a kind. You heard it in childhood. You see it in Instagram bios. You whisper it to yourself when life feels gray. But what if you're not? What if you are just one drop in the endless ocean of humankind? Not the center, not the exception, not the main character. Would that terrify you or finally set you free? Tonight we're going to drift into that idea, slowly, gently, like a boat set adrift without resistance. A meditation on obscurity, insignificance, and why losing your specialness might be the first real step toward peace. Not a sermon, not a lecture, just a walk through still marble halls, quiet thoughts, and long-forgotten philosophers who found peace in anonymity. We're told from the very beginning that we are special. As children, we are praised for simply existing. Our drawings, our clumsy words, our ability to smile at the right moment, all celebrated as signs of something extraordinary. We are unique, they say. One of a kind, destined for something great. The world, we are told, is waiting for us. It sounds comforting. It sounds like love. But beneath that warmth, something quieter takes root. An invisible weight begins to grow. Because if you are special, if you are chosen, if you are meant to stand out, then everything you do must reflect that. You must become worthy of the title. You start to curate yourself, polishing your image, measuring your achievements, fearing mediocrity like it's a kind of death. You start to believe that to be ordinary is to fail, that if your name is not remembered, your life was wasted. And so the chase begins. You chase attention, recognition, success. You chase being seen, being validated, being known. You seek proof that you matter, proof that you're not just another face in the crowd, that you're not just a statistic, not just a background character in someone else's story. But the truth is, most of us are background characters. Most of us will live quiet lives. We'll love a few people. We'll be loved by a few more. We'll take up space in a few hearts, and then we'll fade. And this, contrary to what you've been told, is not a tragedy. It is the shape of life itself. The Stoics knew this. They didn't write long manifestos about changing the world. They didn't fantasize about immortality. They focused instead on how to live well, even if no one was watching. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the known world, reminded himself constantly that he was just a man. Temporary, replaceable, dust waiting to return to dust. They believed that by letting go of the need to be exceptional, you could begin to see clearly. Because when you are no longer obsessed with being special, you start to pay attention to what actually matters. The breath, the moment, the stillness between thoughts. There is something strangely beautiful in knowing you are not the center of the universe. It's like standing in a field under a vast sky. The stars do not care who you are, and that's freeing. You do not have to impress the sky. You do not have to prove anything to the wind. You can let yourself be small. You can let yourself be quiet. You can let yourself be enough without being extraordinary. Specialness is a performance, and performances are exhausting. You don't have to keep performing. You are allowed to exist without applause. You are allowed to fade gently into sleep, knowing that your life matters not because it is seen, but because it is yours. That is enough. Let's keep walking in a world that whispers constantly, be more, do more, become someone. It's almost unthinkable to want the opposite. But Diogenes did. He wanted less. Not out of laziness or bitterness, but as a protest. A quiet, strange rebellion against the machinery of ego. He lived in a barrel. not because he had no choice, but because he saw no need for anything else. No house, no titles, no wardrobe of flattering illusions, just a cloak, a cup, until he threw even that away after watching a boy drink from his hands. This was his philosophy, lived rather than written, a philosophy of subtraction, of shedding the layers of self-importance that keep us grasping, anxious, and afraid. Diogenes believed that to truly live freely, one had to be willing to be a nobody, to step outside of the crowd's gaze, to stop performing, not in secret but in plain view. He walked barefoot through the marketplace during the day holding a lantern, saying he was looking for an honest man, but he never found one. Maybe honesty begins only when you stop trying to be impressive. Diogenes had no patience for pretense. He mocked the philosophers who wore fine robes and spoke in elaborate riddles. He mocked the powerful who believed they mattered more than others. When Alexander the Great stood before him and said, "Ask anything of me," Diogenes replied, "Yes. Stand out of my sunlight." The emperor of the known world, dismissed like a shadow. Diogenes didn't want to be great. He didn't even want to be remembered. And yet, here we are, remembering him not for his achievements, but for his refusal to chase them. We don't need to imitate his life. Most of us wouldn't want to. But there is something valuable in the idea he embodied, that being unknown is not the same as being unworthy, that a quiet, unremarkable existence can be the most radical choice of all. He stripped life to its bones and still found meaning there, not in acclaim, not in legacy, but in freedom. Freedom from needing to impress, freedom from needing to win, freedom from needing to be someone, anyone, other than who he already was. We build so many versions of ourselves for the world to see. Masks for different rooms, scripts for different audiences, and it's tiring. Behind all of it is a quiet fear that if we let the masks slip, if we let people see our ordinariness, we will disappear, that we will become invisible. But Diogenes walked into that invisibility and stayed there and called it home. There's peace in that, a kind of peace not found in applause or admiration, but in detachment. To be nobody is not to be nothing. It is to be unburdened. Let's keep walking. At first, it's a painful thought that one day no one will remember you. Your name will fade, your stories will blur, your image will vanish from every screen, every album, every frame. And yet, this forgetting is inevitable. It happens to nearly everyone. It has already happened to billions before us. The people who built the pyramids, we don't know their names. The mothers who rocked their babies to sleep during the fall of Rome, their faces are gone. The quiet, ordinary lives that made history possible, they have all disappeared. And strangely, the world has not collapsed. It keeps spinning. The sun keeps rising. The tide keeps rolling in. So maybe, just maybe, being forgotten is not a tragedy. Maybe it's a kind of release. The philosopher Seneca wrote that time is like a river. It carries us along, sweeping away all that came before and all that is still to come. We dip our hands into the flow. We hold moments. Then we let them go. Trying to hold on forever to our youth, to our image, to our relevance, is like trying to stop a river with your fingers. It can't be done, but if we stop trying to resist it, if we surrender to the flow, we find something else entirely. Stillness. Stillness in knowing we don't need to leave a mark to matter. Stillness in understanding that the pressure to make history is a burden we were never meant to carry. The Buddhists call it impermanence, the idea that all things, good and bad, come and go, like breath, like seasons, like waves. And if we stop clinging, we suffer less. There is peace in letting go, not as defeat, but as acceptance. Acceptance that we will not be eternal. Acceptance that our lives will be small but still sacred. Acceptance that meaning doesn't have to be written in stone to be real. Think of the sky. How many clouds have passed over it? How many have you remembered? None, perhaps, but each one softened the light. Each one carried water. Each one mattered, if only for a moment. So too with us, you will be forgotten, and that is not a reason to despair. It is a reason to live now, to notice the softness of the pillow beneath your head, to listen to the gentle rhythm of your breath, to watch the way the light falls across the room before you sleep. Because these are the moments that don't need to be remembered to be beautiful. They don't need to last forever to matter. They are enough. You are enough. Even if no one ever writes your name again. Let's keep walking. There is a quiet illusion we carry through life, that we are separate, that there is a clear boundary between ourselves and others, between our thoughts and the world, between me and them. But what if that line isn't real? What if the borders we draw between people are as imaginary as lines drawn in the sand, easily washed away by the first tide? Philosophy, at its softest, begins to blur those lines. The Buddhists speak of anatta, the idea of non-self, that the you think you are is not permanent, not solid, not truly separate. You are not an island, you are the ocean, a wave rising briefly in a unique shape, but always part of something greater. You are not alone, because you were never truly one thing to begin with. When you breathe in, you breathe the same air as the people you'll never meet, the same molecules once held in the lungs of emperors, wanderers, lovers, and strangers. You eat food grown by other hands. You speak in a language you did not invent. You dream in symbols passed down through centuries. You cry in patterns others have cried before. You are not special, but you are not nothing. You are everyone. This truth, quiet and soft, can become a kind of rest. You don't have to build yourself from scratch. You don't have to carry your entire identity like a monument on your back. You can let it go. Not all at once, but piece by piece, like petals falling from a flower, still beautiful as they drop. When you stop trying to be different, you begin to feel deeply connected. To the people you pass on the street, to the trees outside your window, to the vast sweep of human experience, the joy, the fear, the loss, the quiet longing for peace. When you lose yourself, you don't vanish. You become part of something wider, something older, something shared. You begin to see that the stranger across from you is not really a stranger. They are you in a different story, with different scars and the same silent hopes. To be everyone is to finally stop needing to be someone, to rest in a kind of anonymity that does not isolate but binds. Not being special is not an insult. It is an invitation to remember that you are never alone in your joy and never alone in your pain. You belong to the great tangle of us. And in that belonging, there is calm, there is breath, there is enough. Let's keep walking. Every day, without even thinking about it, we perform. We wake up and slip into the roles we've learned to play. The responsible one, the ambitious one, the funny one, the quiet one, We wear these identities like costumes, stitching them from expectation and habit, hoping they'll protect us, or at least make us legible to the world. We perform at work, we perform online, we perform with our families. Even when we're alone, we sometimes keep performing for the ghost of someone we hope is watching. We smile when we feel numb. We say we're fine when we're not. We stay busy so we won't feel the heaviness underneath. We post a curated version of ourselves and then quietly wonder if anyone sees the real us anymore. If we even do. This is not a condemnation. It's not failure. It's simply the way we've learned to survive. But there is another way, a quieter way, a slower way, a way that asks nothing of you but to simply stop. Stop performing. Stop managing your image. Stop trying to prove you're okay when you're tired. Let go of the need to impress. Let go of the polished script. Let go of the story you tell yourself about who you're supposed to be. Philosophy, in its softest form, invites you into stillness. It does not need you to succeed. It does not need you to be extraordinary. It only asks that you pay attention. Attention to the breath. Attention to the moment. Attention to what remains when you remove the spotlight. What's left when you are no longer performing? A body, a heartbeat, a quiet presence, and that, despite everything the world tells you, is enough. The Stoics believed in this kind of enoughness. They practiced what they called apatheia, a calm indifference to praise or blame. They didn't reject emotion, but they refused to let it run their lives. They wanted to be grounded, steady in the storm, untouched by the roaring crowds or the silence that follows. Taoist sages spoke of this too, of flowing like water, unconcerned with appearances, content in simply existing, not as a brand, not as a project, but as a part of the world, like wind, like stone, like dusk. And you too are part of this world. You don't need to act for it. You don't need to convince it that you matter. You can rest, you can slow down, you can close your eyes, and in that quiet you might finally meet the version of yourself who was waiting patiently beneath all the layers, the real one, the ordinary one, the free one. Let's keep walking. So much of life is spent trying to be seen, noticed, understood, remembered. We chase visibility like it's oxygen, as if our existence depends on someone else acknowledging it. We fear the quiet, we fear the slow fade, we fear the soft vanishing of our names into the folds of time. But what if the vanishing isn't a curse? What if it's a blessing we've misunderstood? You will be forgotten. And that is not tragic. It is peaceful. It is ordinary. And it is deeply human. To be obscure, to pass unnoticed, to walk gently through life without needing to make noise, that is not failure. It is rest. You do not need to be a story others repeat. You do not need a monument. You do not need the echo of applause that never lasts. You can let go now of the chase, of the pressure, of the weight of always trying to matter more than you already do. In this silence, you are not lacking. You are simply no longer performing. The world will continue without you, just as it did before you arrived. And yet, in your brief time here, you were part of it. You breathed its air. You watched its sunrises. You loved. You hurt. You wondered. You dreamed. And none of that needs to be remembered to be real. Let yourself fade into that truth, into the softness of not needing to be important, into the deep comfort of being no one in particular. Because when you let go of being special, you begin to belong more fully to everything. You become the quiet wind through leaves, the hush of a room at dusk, the stillness between words, the pause between heartbeats. You are not the main character. You are not the lesson. You are not the meaning. You are the space that holds it all, and in that space there is nothing to prove, nothing to fix, nothing to become. Just this, a slow exhale, a gentle closing of the eyes, a soft surrender into the dark. Let the need to be remembered fall away like dust. Let the world spin on without you for a while. It will be okay, and so will you. There is peace in this obscurity. There is sleep waiting on the other side of letting go. Not because you gave up, but because you stopped gripping so tightly. Sleep now. Float through the dark. Nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove. Only the quiet truth. You are here. You were always here. And that was always enough. Sleep well. Until next time.